I would like to propose a toast to Andre de Shields, to Anwen Deng, and to Orchestra Lumos. So I should probably ask you guys what you thought.
Wow.
That's called a rhetorical question. Yes. I will be totally honest with you. This was an experiment. It's an experiment and a work in progress. It is an exercise in creativity. It's an exercise in imagination. It's a way to bring music and words together. I can think of no better way than to have beautiful music from the piano and absolutely stunning delivery of words from one of the great actors of our time. So I think we should explain to them that the text was a mixture of original words, right?
Yes.
Some actual Ovid in translation,
Actual George Walker.
actual George Walker, a poem by David Rothman, and part of the text from
Hadestown.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So you talked in the pre-concert talk about thinking about Orpheus in the second movement. You, of course, have an incredibly close connection, having played it. How many performances? Do you know how many years?
4 years, 761 performances.
So he knows the story, right? Why do you think this myth is so powerful?
First of all mythology is powerful. This particular myth is powerful because Orpheus can be seen as the quintessential everyman. One of the many conversations I've had with Michael during this process is, what might the lesson be ancient mythology? But I think you can see the parallel with the Christian ethos. When God says to the first man and the first woman, listen, this beautiful oasis is yours forever. There's no such thing as death. All you have to do is avoid eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's all you have to do. Don't eat that. What's the first thing they do? Eat it. And here we are paying the price. So, all I'm saying is that's a more modern version of do not look back. Now, if we can find that mirrored in the Christian ethos, let's go to what we know as the Holy Scriptures, which we call the Old Testament. Right? What happened when the Lord decided to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? Do not look back. And what happens? The wife, of course, it's always the woman's fault. The wife looks back and she's turned into a pillar of salt. We don't learn. We don't learn. We doubt our ability, our discipline, our interior architecture to be stern with ourselves. So everyone can hear the question.
Do you think that Orpheus decides to look back, or do you think that Orpheus, as well as Eve, just yield to impulses?
That was the conversation we had.
You give me the other mic. Yours is better.
I'm giving you the mic. I'll never get it back.
How did you get the button mic?
I don't, because some people call me Mike. Here.
Yeah.
So this was the conversation that we had, actually. This was not a disagreement, because I agree with everything that he said. What I love about the Orphic myth, like every other myth, is that it's open to different interpretations. Yes, he had doubt, but also there was the ineffable, not weakness, but the need to do that for whatever reason. It could have been temptation, it could have been something innate in us, that the woman that he loved, unseen behind him, he needed to see her. Not because he doubted that she was there, he just wanted to see her there. Of course, one could be simplistic and say that all of these stories, which I agree, have some connection, could have been solved by a good dietitian. Because if they had said, avoid carbohydrates and don't eat too much salt, they wouldn't have eaten the apple, and he wouldn't have looked back, she wouldn't have turned into salt, they would have been healthier. But that's maybe the wrong interpretation. My point is that you can hear the different interpretations in the way the musical treatments of each myth. So in Hadestown, doubt absolutely rules the day, and you hear it in the music. In the list, it's very interesting, in the list Orpheus, there's no really fast music. There's no telling of the story. It's one thing, and that is, as Andre read Liszt's own words, this primordial need in his mind that art should restore morality. So there's this kind of constant, in the Beethoven, as you know, especially in the second movement, he's actually telling the story of struggle of Orpheus, right? So, for those of you who don't know, Anwen did an amazing thing. She played her very first Beethoven Fourth Piano Concerto tonight with Orchestra. So beautiful. What went through your mind when you start the second movement, and you've got the struggle with the Furies, and then you tame them, and they come down, but then something happens with the trills, and Orpheus has looked back, and he gets... Was that all going through your mind?
Yeah, especially I think when I play the trills and when I open the second movement, I have that image in my mind of the struggle that Orpheus has going into the underworld and the tragic story as they go up. Like, that's always running through my mind, and I think that really inspires the kind of sound that I have and the mood.
Yeah. It really ties in with something that Andre said yesterday when we were talking, which I loved, which I want you to expound on. He didn't get cast for the show. He didn't read the script and decide he's going to play the character of Hermes this way or that way. The way you said it to me is, I invented Hermes, right? The way a musician, looking at the notes on the page, has to invent the piece anew, because the notes are there for the last 200 plus years. You've got to do something with, well, not this one, 100 and, whatever, 200, yeah, it's 200. My math is not good. The point is that you have to put yourself in it and then create something new. And that, it was interesting, you said you never followed somebody in a role, you always invented the role, right?
That's right. But I want to get back to this young lady. Your question is, couldn't it have been impulse? Impulse is an adolescent rationale for not being able to make a decision.
We could discuss that later.
Well, we certainly can. But even if I agreed that it was an impulse that was the catalyst, he still had intellect enough to say, I've made a bargain with the god of Hades that if I want to return to Earthside with the woman that I had pledged my love to, I must not look over my shoulder.
Adolescent defiance of authority figures?
No. No. We have to be stern with ourselves.
I agree with that.
We have to have stamina. We have to have determination. We have to be He has the gift to melt stones with his song. He has to forego impulse. He's a demigod.
But the gods have human qualities.
Well, and humans have godlike qualities. That's how we get Orpheus, the son of a god and a mortal. Impulse. What is the godlike impulse? Or was it a mortal impulse that made him look over his shoulder? He made a covenant. We cannot disregard covenants. We mustn't disregard covenants, because that's the beginning of all the trouble in the world. When you do not trust yourself.
Can I suggest maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays and then group on Friday? And we can I think within 6 weeks we can get this done, yeah.
Well, I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity because I speak to people, young people, not quite as young as you, but young people who want to know, do you have any advice for a young person who's attempting to do this, do that, do the other? Yes, although I don't call it advice, I call it a wisdom bomb. Set a standard below which you do not allow yourself to be diminished.
That takes a lot of prefrontal cortex.
Oh, Freud.
No, neurology.
Well, Freud was the first.
Yes.
Wait, let me finish the statement. Freud was the first neurodivergent individual. Okay?
We have a question there.
For negative on this, Stephen Vincent Benet wrote a short story called The Devil and Daniel Webster.
Yes.
Daniel Webster, a man named Jabez Stone made a deal with the devil to sell his soul to the devil, and Daniel Webster got him out of it. So the exact opposite, Daniel Webster was able to beat the devil, as opposed to Orpheus not being able to beat Hades.
Well, can I just say, that story, I do want to get back to the music also for a moment, but that story, like the Master and Margarita, like there are all sorts of stories where we make deals with the devil to do something. This story is all about love, which makes it not, I want to be able to do this. This is who I need to be with. This is who I am. That's the difference. And I think that's what Andre is talking about, that you pledge yourself to this, and also in a weird way what Walker was talking about, because his father rescued him after being killed by his enemies because he knows he risked himself for that woman, not because he was trying to defeat an ally or have some, supernatural ability or defeat some army or anything like that. I think that for me is what animated the concert, right? So when I hear the beginning of the Beethoven, that opening is so pure. It's just a statement of faith. It has nothing to do with I want to do something. It's just, this is who I am. And the dialogue with the orchestra is the unfolding of Orpheus's, call it character, of his being. Then comes the Furies and the struggle, and then comes Beethoven's frenzy, in his way as frenzied as Offenbach at the end, which is, of course, satirical and clown-like, and, he has the Furies dancing, but he's French, so, the point is...
No bias here.
None. The point is that what I loved about this program, the way we're having this conversation about Orpheus, there are so many different perspectives in music and in literature and in life to come to the end of a story with different takeaways. And I think that is, I mean, you said that you listened to some recordings, right? If I'm gonna give you a wisdom bomb, don't listen to too many recordings, just do your thing, right? But you came to this piece with a really original interpretation, which, can I just say, at the age of 15 and, when's your 16th birthday? Next April? Oh, she's 15 and a half. I think that deserves a chuckle. I'm so glad that you liked the concert. Did you have any questions for Anwen? Another question for Andre? A question about this format?
Was it your inspiration to tie this program together with the theme of Orpheus?
The answer is yes, partially because I was so besotted by Andre's performance in Hadestown, partially because the Beethoven Fourth Piano Concerto fits perfectly, partially because this whole season is constructed to have these concerts where we have an integral union of words, language, and music, and emotion, and to create a space where people can hear music that they've never heard and music that they perhaps have heard many times in a different way. And so the Orpheus theme, everything sort of came quickly together on that theme. We had other ideas. Next concert is on love and Shakespeare and connection, because our two hosts are very long time married partners as well as professional acting partners. In February, we have a marvelous program about cultural legacy and the inherited weight of received knowledge and culture across continents and across oceans, with some very new music and some very old music, and all of it around a family's connection to culture. And then, of course, in May, we have our natural world and climate and Yo-Yo Ma. Every concert has a reason to be. And for me, Beethoven, Hadestown, Anwen, Andre, it was just a perfect coming together.
How did you find Anwen to make this happen? I mean, she is.
I knocked on her dressing room and there she was practicing. It was a very lucky thing because I tried to keep my, can I say? I tried to keep my hand in what's going on in sort of in the world of the youths. And I'm very friendly with a lot of really wonderful musicians who happen to be teaching, and Veda Kaplinsky is an old friend of mine, and she is a wonderful teacher and a longtime member of the Juilliard faculty. And I was just talking to her, and she was, I'm not about anything specific, and she said, I have this student, you should listen to her, you should know her. And I am grateful. I will call her and tell her that I am grateful that she recommended Anwen, because it could not have been a more delicious partner.
From how difficult was it to move halfway around the world and come into U.S. culture?
I mean, I was pretty young at that time, so I didn't really have much idea of what was going on, besides that I was going on a new adventure. I was going to this amazing music school where I could continue to develop my skills. So it was mostly just very exciting for me.
She was 6.
Who decided?
Who decided? I'm guessing your parents decided.
I think we decided together.
Look at you! There's an independent 6-year-old. A couple more questions and then we're gonna have to.
I was curious, given the age difference, I was curious what you were doing when you were her age and what you hope to be doing when you're his age.
Well, we don't talk about how old.
I didn't specify the age.
Well, first, okay, well, you go. Well, whose wisdom bomb are we gonna hear first? What do you want to do when you are old?
Well, I think at this point in my life, I don't have a definitive path for myself outlined yet, but I think I definitely want to continue my music career in some way, maybe even teaching, because I've always found that spreading my passion to others, that's really rewarding for me. So maybe that.
You don't have to decide. Yet. In fact, you would say you never have to decide, just follow the path, right?
You're putting words in my mouth.
God forbid. I tried that when we wrote the script. It didn't work at all.
Anwen, am I pronouncing it correctly? Anwen. Is that it? Anwen. When I was Anwen's age, I was making a decision about how I was going to pursue higher education. Now, by higher education, I don't mean how I was going to attend a university or a college, but how I was going to liberate my mind that prior to being 15, I had only experienced the chains that were on it. And my decision was, I'm going to master the English language. Why? Because I don't want those individuals who would oppress me take advantage of my inability to understand what they were saying about me. More to the point, what they weren't saying about me. And the other side of that coin is, I wanted to be able to express myself so that there was no doubt who I am and who I'm not. And I think it's worked.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot be more grateful to all of you for having come. I cannot be more grateful to our two guests for having graced the stage with us tonight. It really, for me, this was a long project of work and discovery. And I also think this program had a lot of moving parts. And we needed a lot of support. Certainly support from the board, from Russell, from everybody. But there's one person who made this show work, and that's Tony Malone. So, thank you for coming. Keep coming back. We have another performance like this in November. We're very excited to see you tonight. Of course, as ever, thank you for having the faith for the music and in us. Thank you.